Dave, Beverly, and Beverly. We got a fun guest today.
Yes, welcome back, Jason. It's been a little while. Of course, Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Director, and we're looking forward to hearing from you a little bit more about the whole topic of COVID-19 and just people in general and how we're dealing with this. And we'd like to start out kind of along the lines of just a quick update overview from your perspective.
Yeah, how we doing?
Sure. Good morning, Ellis County, and thanks for having me on and really the listening area in its entirety. So, like I said, Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Services Director. It's been a couple of months probably since since I was here, and
Yeah, we kind of went through Share-a-thon, and that's kind of intense for us as we're seeking to raise funds to stay on the air. We're coming off of that and into the holiday season now, so thanks for hanging in there with us.
yeah, no problem. COVID. So COVID has generally consumed everyone's thoughts and ideas and personal life and professional life, and it really doesn't matter. I actually was talking to one of a great employee that works with me, and she was basically saying, I never get away from it. It's at work. Then then I go home and it's at home, and there's just always an issue with that revolves around COVID, and I think that is truly the message from everybody. Everybody we just desire for it to be over,
Yes.
and it's not, and it won't be anytime soon. There is obviously starting to be light at the end of what feels like an extremely long tunnel. But there's also there will be a lot of concern and a lot of heartache and a lot of loss until we get to that light. And right now we're at a point where obviously cases are on the rise, really nationwide, statewide, worldwide. Cases are skyrocketing. I've not seen any just stellar explanations as to why. I think everybody wants to know, well, why now? It seems like November 1st. Literally, cases started to skyrocket just really statewide. I know here in Ellis County, we saw a huge increase in testing. I think a lot of it is attributed to the fact that people want to go and be with family over Thanksgiving. They want to go and travel. They want to get their lives back online. And they think that the test will make them safe. They think that by going in and getting testing, if you test positive, well, obviously you can knock out your quarantine before the holidays, and then you're good to go. Or if you test negative, well, you're good to go. You're fine now. And unfortunately, testing doesn't necessarily work that way. Unless you strictly isolate following your test for the next, let's say you're going to see a loved one on Thanksgiving, and you test on the first and it comes back negative. Unless you strictly isolate, meaning hiding out in your basement by yourself, not around anyone else, no contact with the outside world for the next 27 days, you could contract COVID at any point following that test. Unfortunately, the test doesn't keep you safe. Good actions, good positive public health measures, taking additional steps in your day-to-day life to mitigate the risk as much as possible. Does it eliminate your risk? No. But does it help? Sure. And so a lot of our case rise is due to some of that, but we also have more COVID. The case rise is not due to testing alone. It is due to the fact that COVID is here. COVID is in every community. It's made its way now to Western Kansas. There's really been no county, no city that hasn't been impacted in the state of Kansas. We have widespread community transmission over the entire state. And as you look at our data, we see that we kind of have these, they keep talking about them as waves. And they are, but generally with a wave, or if you look at the ocean, like you'll go back to whatever the baseline is. When a wave starts, it goes back to the baseline again. Starts, comes in, crashes, goes back to the baseline. The problem with COVID is we never go back to the baseline, because every time the wave comes down on the backside, we have more COVID at that point, more community transmission at that point. So the waves keep getting higher and higher and higher. The peaks get higher because the valleys never go back down to zero. And so as we look at that, we have to understand that we will continue to have more cases. Cases will continue to go up. I know everybody just stares at these numbers and just in absolute dread of the numbers. I think we've lost sight of those numbers are impacts. Those numbers are people. Those numbers are family members. Those numbers are individuals in our own family, in our community. And so it's less about the number. It's more about the impact. And what we know about those impacts is still a vast majority of people are asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic. That's good and bad. Asymptomatic people obviously can spread the virus without knowing it. So that's the negative of asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic people. The good is that the vast majority of people recover from COVID. After they contract it, they recover. They do pretty well with their clinical course. So there's good and bad with the asymptomatic and the mildly symptomatic people. But we do have the other people that do have a rough course, that we do account for the hospitalizations. We're talking nationwide about hospital capacity, and the national news media is just driving home this rhetoric of fear. And fear does us no good. From my desk, fear does us no good. Because when people are fearful, they make bad choices, or they make choices not based on rational thought processes. They make choices not based on an educated position. They make just rash choices that say either, you know what, it's so bad I just don't care anymore and I'm not going to do anything, or it drives them into this depression that doesn't help us out either. So the fear is unnecessary, but we do need to be concerned, and we do need to understand what's going on out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Ironically, the fear also causes us to say things that we regret. It causes divisions in family and friends that we wish did not happen, and can make things hard to mend.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
It's we are fighting so many pandemics right now. It's the pandemic of political divisiveness. It's the pandemic of fear. It's the pandemic of depression. It's the pandemic of really driving that wedge in between the populace. We've talked before how this pandemic, and I will put a bulk of the blame on the sources of information that we're putting out there. We've driven home this rhetoric of, if you don't do this, you're a bad person, or if you don't wear the mask, you don't care about other people. And that's just not a fair message. The message should be, take additional precautions to protect yourself, to protect your loved ones. Make good choices to protect yourself. Make good choices. The more you can protect yourself, the more you can make these small changes part of your daily life, the better that protects the entire community. You're not a bad person if you view COVID differently than someone else. You're a bad person if you maliciously or negligently do things to hurt others. I don't believe that people are doing that. They're making choices. Everybody has to make a choice as we move forward with this. Those choices need to be, or I would ask, I guess, that those choices are implementing some of the basic public health measures into your life. Smaller type, live small, I guess. I think there's in there like a tiny house show or something about live small. Like,
There's a few of those.
yeah, it's I think right now, I was thinking about this morning before I came down, and I think we've like circled back around. I'm not even sure what topic we're on now, but I sometimes do that, just ramble. But I was thinking about it before I came down here this morning, and I was thinking about when we had the first lockdown, when Governor Kelly locked down the whole western half of the state, and we had like 2 cases out here. Completely unnecessary. It was based strictly on fear, and it didn't help us. I will never advocate for lockdowns. They do nothing. We understand that they do nothing. But I was thinking about the one benefit of the lockdown is, I remember like coming home from work, and it had been just a terrible, a normal COVID day. You can't even say terrible days
Normal
anymore. I don't
COVID
think
day.
it's just everybody. You just have a normal COVID day, which is just a terrible day.
That sounds like a fun place to be in
but-
society. It's a normal
But
COVID day.
Yeah, it's just a normal COVID day. But I remember coming home from work and I thought, man, it's so nice. I have no kids events to go to tonight. I have no like meetings after work. Because there wasn't anything going on. I had nothing to do. And I could just like grab a basketball and shoot some hoops with my kids in the front yard. And it was actually nice to have no distractions, nothing that was pulling our time away. We just, we were able to just sort of relax and enjoy the family. And I guess as we look for a path to get through these next few months, and make no mistake, they're going for authorization for a vaccine today.
Yeah.
Not very many of us are going to see that vaccine anytime in the near future. It's not like because it's authorized today, we're going to get it tomorrow. We're still looking at months before this vaccine's here. And then we're looking at more months after that before we're able to do the second dose if we need to, or before it really takes effect. So yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel, which is phenomenal. Any improvement in a normal COVID day is good. And so, yes, the prospect of vaccines is phenomenal, and it's a great light for a long, long tunnel. But we have many months left before we're truly able to relax. And so I guess what I ask people is to enjoy that quiet, enjoy that calm, eliminate things from your life that maybe aren't a necessity, that are interactions that maybe you don't have to have, especially now that we're looking at these winter months where everything's going indoors. We're looking at hospital capacity issues. And if we're having normal COVID days that are terrible, think what the medical community's having. Think about the nursing staff and the doctors, and think about the days that they have. And so slow down, take a deep breath, enjoy a slow COVID day, take a COVID year. It's already been a COVID year, but
It's a hashtag coming here
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, it's but just slow down. And if we can eliminate some of those things that bring us together with other people that aren't a necessity, and we can just focus on that family connection or something like that, I think it will serve us all well.
Very good. Hey, Dave and Beverly talking to Jason Kennedy, and from our perspective, you talked about the pandemic of fear, depression, hate, and so forth. The answer is in Jesus Christ. What's that verse that says, Beverly, perfect love casts out fear?
Casts out all fear, yes. Perfect love. And I'm not sure the reference to it, but that is a Bible, a quote from the Bible. So,
Yeah. Well, we are here at Praise Radio from Midwest Kansas, Beverly and Dave, and we have our special guest, Jason Kennedy, joining us here on the mic talking about COVID. We were talking last time, and we were wondering what that verse was, perfect love casts out fear.
we figured it out, didn't we?
It is. It was not the words of Jesus, although you could argue God's word. Maybe I could work a way in there, but apparently it was the Apostle John,
Yes.
not Jesus, but it's still God's word.
So if you want to find it in your Bible, it's 1 John 4:18, where it says that there's no fear in love, and perfect love drives out fear.
Yeah, so instead of being controlled by fear through this whole entire process of COVID, if instead we took that to heart and we were controlled by love, by God's love, it'd be a much different world and different interaction as we all politely conversate or not.
It's
Right.
I'm not sure there's probably a better verse to deal with this right now, and we've talked about how fear guides poor choices. Fear makes us do things that we normally wouldn't do, and we talked a little bit at the break about how this public health messaging. Public health has been terrible. We are terrible at messaging. We're not good at it. We've been battling smoking and obesity and all of that stuff for years, and we've not made a huge impact. COVID has been no different. We are terrible at messaging. And so what the message that I think people need to hear right now is that you're not a bad person if you're not doing everything you can to battle COVID. You're not a bad person. You have to make choices to move forward. But the love of that, the love aspect of this whole thing is that we need to do what we can to protect ourselves and our loved ones. And if instead of selling the message of you're a bad person or you're terrible if you don't care about others, the message should be care about yourself and your loved ones enough to take these measures to protect yourself. Let your love guide those good decisions. And so I think if we can change that message and we can stop telling people they're bad or they're whatever, and just tell people, you know what, take these measures because they're important for yourself, for your loved ones. They're important for maybe your neighbors, whatever. And so it's let that love guide your decisions. And that kind of segues into Thanksgiving. There's a we see from, the CDC comes out and says like everybody needs their own turkey and their own bowl of Jell-O, and if you want to gather safely, you need to have two people in a room that are 63 feet apart, and it's just
That's a big room.
yeah. So like and that is just not realistic for most people. And so I don't think you're a bad person if you don't follow the CDC's guidelines to a T. Now, look at those guidelines and see how they help. See what you can incorporate, what makes sense, what's realistic to allow you to have some normalcy, some of that connection with your loved ones, which we all need, while being as safe as possible. And so the biggest thing I think that we need to look at is we realize that the population over 65 is disproportionately impacted by this virus. As of, I think, Wednesday in the state of Kansas, around 13% of the cases from the start of COVID, around 13% of the cases are in the population 65 and over. But they account for almost 85% of the mortality. 13% of the cases account for 85% of the mortality. We know that those over 65 are disproportionately impacted by this virus. So as you look towards Thanksgiving, Fauci canceled it. I'm not canceling Thanksgiving, but you might want to. It might make sense for you to take a COVID year. It might make sense for you to not bring together all 60 extended family members into Nana's house and have the huge Thanksgiving that you normally have.
When Nana's like 75 with COPD.
Right. And so you have to look at your situation and care enough about Nana, use your love, to say, you know what, just not this year. But maybe Nana has seen you. She lives here in town. My kids' parents, my kids' grandparents, they live here in town. We've seen each other regularly throughout this pandemic. Every week, they were not going to take a break from their grandkids. Now, we've tried to be safe. If the kid has a sniffle, we don't take them over, but, which is tough because kids always have a sniffle. But it's, we've been as safe as possible. Well, we've seen my parents every week or every couple weeks throughout the whole pandemic. It's probably not much less, or it's probably not much more dangerous for them on Thanksgiving Day, since we've already seen each other.
Right.
They're part of our bubble. We're all making good decisions. We're all doing everything we can. But if Grandma and Grandpa lived 6 hours away and 17 different families were all going to converge on their house and we're all going to spend the night there and we're going to have Thanksgiving together, that is a huge risk to everyone in the family and to Nana. And so as you look at that for your family, there really is not a safe way to facilitate that. So maybe you want to dial that back this year. And that's the message that we should be selling, is not that you're a bad person if you do it. It's just that you should let your love guide those good decisions and say, you know what, I care enough about Nana. Maybe just the ones that live there in that town, maybe they go see Nana for a short amount of time because they've all been making good decisions. They've all been sort of bubbling themselves together anyways. Maybe they just do it this year, and everyone else just enjoys a turkey or hot dogs, whatever you have on Thanksgiving night. I don't know. Some people don't like turkey. I think, is Sonic open? You can get a
I
foot-long
don't
cheese
know.
coney.
I've never
I
heard
don't
of
know.
having hot dogs
Yeah.
for Thanksgiving,
Well,
though.
you know,
That's
Might
a
just
new.
take off.
Yeah, that might be the new thing. You
Right.
know,
But,
we
you
barbecue
know-
and grill instead.
Actually, if it stays like this, and that's another point. I mean, it's 65 degrees this afternoon. If you want to help your health, go for a walk. Go outside today. It's those decisions are going to positively impact COVID in our community, and that the healthier the population, the easier it is, or the better we are at dealing with some of these viruses. So making those healthy choices as we go through the holidays. Avoid the second slice of pie. Honestly, pumpkin pie is terrible anyways. So like that, now that's going to be a
No,
politically
I
divisive
disagree.
statement right there.
I know. We're gonna
that
get
is-
calls on that one.
That is going to upset some listeners. But making those good choices and seeing how the public health measures incorporate into your life is how we will get through the next 4 to 6 months.
Real quick, I know you want to talk about the vaccine coming out here soon, as we're getting ready to head back into some music coming up, as well as our program, New Beginning with Pastor Greg Laurie. What would you like to connect with us on?
Sure. Honestly, short message on vaccines: take them. They're safe. These vaccines, really all the vaccines that we have available in the U.S. Now, I know that there is a huge proportion of the population that is kind of an anti-vax type movement. There's just really not overwhelming data to suggest that any vaccine is dangerous. Vaccines are good for you. They are safe. They're safe and effective for your children. This vaccine is safe. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories. There's a bunch of stuff out there. I'm not selling you a message because it's my job. I'm telling you that I will have absolutely zero problems taking the vaccine when it's available to me. Now, those over 65 probably need it before me. I'm okay with that as well, because we know they're disproportionately impacted. But I have zero issues taking the vaccine for myself, for anyone in my family, for my kids. It is a safe vaccine. The efficacy of it, the adoption rate, the duration of immunity, all that stuff we're going to have to wait and see. I can't tell you that this is going to fix COVID in a month, but it will be safe. Take the vaccine when it's available. Continue to follow those basic public health measures. Wash your hands. Avoid contact with people. Stay out of those mass gatherings. Stay out of those large settings. Wear a mask if you can't distance yourself. Continue to just care about yourself, your loved ones, and really everybody else as we go through this. Be kind to each other. It's we can't do hugs and we're not supposed to do handshakes, but that doesn't mean that you can't still care about people. So use that to guide your decisions, and we will make it through this together.
Jason Kennedy, Ellis County Health Director, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah. Well, what was that verse again, Beverly? Perfect love
It was
casts out
1
fear?
John 4:18, and I know that because I'm looking at the note I wrote. But there's no fear in love, and perfect love drives out fear.
All right, good verse to remember as we continue on into our COVID year. You said, right?
It's a
hashtag.
It's a COVID year. I wish it would end quickly, but it's unfortunately, I think COVID year is going to continue for a while, but you know what? We will make it through it, and just make those good choices for yourself and others.
In 30 years, we are going to be using the hashtag COVID year, and our grandkids are going to look at it like, what in the
What's
world
COVID
are they
year?
saying?
I'll tell you what, there are some funny, there's a bunch of funny memes out there on COVID stuff. It's, find some joy, smile, and
Yes.
enjoy it. I will say the last thing, I did find a fairly decent, I hate Facebook. I think most of the information on Facebook is trash, but I'm still on there. So I did find this one comment, and it said, when thinking about life, remember this: no amount of guilt can solve the past, and no amount of anxiety or worry can change the future. And so as we move towards the future, as we make those decisions, don't be fearful, don't be anxious, don't have angst over what the future brings. Just make the best decision you can for today, and we'll all move through till tomorrow.
Wow. Thank you again, Jason Kennedy. Thanks for joining us this morning.